All right, we're recording. So show of hands or verbal acknowledgement. How many people have gone back to take a look at the videos after they were uploaded?
I have.
2021. Out with the old, in with the new.
All right, since we haven't actually started, we can do the typical points of order. This is being recorded. If you're not talking, please mute your mic so we don't hear the dogs and the TV and your wife yelling at you to stop doing all that sub stuff. There, that was the end of the points of order. Hey, let's get started. I'll start with my shop updates and then we'll open it up to the rest of the group. Frank's Type 7 will be ready for the pond tomorrow, and I'm going to show you guys the torpedo launcher that I developed for it. That seems to be working well. Hopefully, water trials tomorrow. I'll catch some video and I'll be uploading that shortly thereafter. So if we were to take a look at that. So this is the torpedo assembly that I created. If you remember, the first version I came out with had individual launchers. The second one looked like it was put together by a 6-year-old out of Lego. And this one is the final version that I created in 3D and printed up all in, well, it's actually 2 pieces just glued together, but you can see it's got that spread, that angle to allow the weapons to clear as it's launched out of the forward tubes of the boat there. There are obviously far more eloquent solutions out there, but when I was developing this, I was after simplicity and reliability was the 2 key factors. So I'm super excited about the torpedoes. Like I told you guys, these are all 3D printed nylon, and they work really, really well. I'm super excited about that. I've got these shafts, these gas vents actually go all the way up to the nose. So as that weapon is going through the water, all the liquid air stays at the back, but the gas is what's actually getting shunted out the back of the weapon. You don't want to eject the liquid because you're giving up a lot of kinetic energy spewing the liquid out. So you want the air. So I calculated the proper lengths and diameters of the pipe to get the weight proper. And when this is fully empty, it bobs on the surface just with that much sticking out of the water. A nice bright red warhead so you can track them down. But this is the system, and this is very heavily influenced by David Merriman's stupendous work on the 72nd scale torpedoes that he developed. Stole some ideas and changed some ideas. The idea being that you would load the weapons in the launcher, slip them in place, and the whole thing just simply pushes forward and bolts down. So it's super quick. And then you can charge it after everything is all there and ready to go through these adapters. And then one servo controls the launch of both weapons. And boy, this is going to be challenging. Let's see if I can manage this. Here we go. So one servo controls the launch of both weapons. So you'll pull, and that launches the one, and you push, and that launches the other. So one servo, 2, no solenoids, no electronics, no nothing like that. It's all very, solid state. The way that I did it, and I don't know if you can see that in here, but there's ball bearings on the inside that rest up against these wheel collars. And when this shaft is pulled back, it creates the space for that ball bearing to roll to the side and release the shaft. My initial design was too high friction, and it didn't work awesome at all. I wasn't excited about it. With these ball bearings, and again, Dave's was the one who influenced this design, very, very low friction. And then up at the front, you've got the retainers, the safety retainers. So until the shaft is pulled back, there's no way for the weapon to get out because the ball bearings are inside the shaft, stopping the weapons from being fired. So yeah, super excited about that. I'll have the video and pictures up within like 7 days, maiden voyage, hopefully tomorrow in the pool. All right, what else we got going on? Let me flip my camera back around again, walk around the shop. Next up on the docket, I got a couple of builds for Warren Wilson. He gave me these at Subfest, and I told him it was going to be a long time. It would be like January before I could work on them, and hey, it's January. This is a 23 32nd parallel styrene kit. A lot of you guys will recognize these. 32nd parallel was circa 1980s, 1990s. I don't remember the exact year they kind of went defunct. I think it was, what, mid-90s? I don't know if anybody knows for sure. But they had a number of kits, and this was one of them. Actually, a beautiful kit, lots of great detail. And this came to me in this situation. I'm going to throw one of our subdrivers in there. The other one that he's got is a 96 scale 571 Nautilus. And both of them, basically, I just got to drop the cylinder in, trim them, and they'll be all ready to go. I've been messing around with my new resin 3D printer. Some of you have these. Man, I love the results that I get. It's my first time. I finally got around to getting it all hooked up. It's an Eddy Cubic Photon. It was 99 bucks on Amazon. If you guys are interested, the build platform is super small. It's only maybe 4 inches by 4 inches, but for detail parts, you really can't beat it. And I had, where did I put those? I'm not going to be able to find them now. I had printed out the ship's wheel and the dive levers for the 48th scale Nautilus. I'm not going to be able to find them, but anyhow, suffice it to say they're cool. Works really good. Any cubic photon. This is neat. This came. What's that, Bruce?
I just got one of those as well.
Nice. Yes. You know, honestly, I am super tempted to grab a bigger one. They've got a bigger version of it for $600, and it's like an 8x9x8 build platform, I think it is.
Yeah.
And the thing about them is that, you know, with a traditional 3D printer, it lays down layers, right? And it builds the perimeters around with a line that goes like around and around, tracing the contour and the interior parts. These printers lay down an entire layer at one time. So they're way, way faster. I printed 3 of these in 2 hours, and it would have taken 5 or 6 hours probably on an FDM printer. So yeah. This is super cool. This came back to me. I traded Tom Martin some stuff to get this back. Now, some of you might recognize the profile, but not really recognize the profile. If you're familiar with the work of Dennis de Boer, you'll recognize this boat. This is what he calls the Sea View Concept 2. So it was his idea to modernize the Sea View, you know, from the 60s voyage to the bottom of the sea. And man, it is cool looking. Dave Merriman RC'd one of these. This is the only RC version that I've ever built, but it's a surface runner. And when I was commissioned to build it, the mandate was simplicity and reliability. So there is only 2 channels used in this boat. It's a surface runner, and it uses bilge pumps in the back for propulsion. So these are huge 12 volt, 1100 gallon per hour. Yeah, GPH, yeah, or bilge pumps, 12 volt bilge pumps. So they intake fluid, water from the bottom there, and eject it out the back. And as I said, it's only 2 channels, so it actually uses differential steering. And you've got these ducted jets out the back. These got bent in shipping. They're a little bit too aggressive there right now. There you go. So with both of them on, the stream is split out this way. The model goes straight forward. And if you only use one, it will push the model left or right. It's really simple. It works really well. And I'll be cleaning this up again. We're just going to get it all bench tested. Jason just finished hooking up the LED lights. It's got LED lights everywhere all through, including lights that shine down into these clear tubes and out the exhaust nozzles. So it looks really cool when it's all put together. And we'll be offering this for sale after it's all cleaned up and ready to go. Here's the cylinder for it. Just a simple 1 compartment cylinder with 2 big beefy electronic speed controllers. So yeah, super cool. 6.4 amp battery. You could run it all day and you'll never run into a low battery situation. And the last thing I wanted to show you, because I don't think it was ready last time, actually I'm sure it wasn't ready, the 48-inch Nautilus was finally completed. So this is the 48 Nautilus kit. If Ed is on, this is the final version. I just uploaded a video showing all of the details, but I mean, those rivets are just cool. And then fully functional hatches and perfectly clear parts. I'm really happy with how this turned out. 49 inches overall, perfect for display or for RC. So there you go. And then work continues on the new subdriver. I'm busy bastardizing Dave's carefully engineered MSD subdrivers to make it a little easier for me as a lazy person to manufacture them, and for you guys as operators to keep them functional. So playing with that, I've got the motors installed. Twin speed controllers are hidden in the compartment in there. 3 servos, although you only really need 2. Yeah, I got the pump module all hooked up and ready to go. So coming along. I'm just working out a nice, robust, simple pinch valve for the vent to replace that mechanical linkage at the top of the ballast tank, which tends to need adjusting over time. So this will just simply be, on or off, and it'll be a pinch valve to open and close the vent. At least that is the theory. You can always fall back to the tried and true version that Dave engineered. So there you go. That's what I've had going on. On a personal note, I've started my IFR flight training. So that's every day now, every morning. So I'm quite busy right now. Lots of things going on.
So Bob, are you getting your twin engine rating while you're doing that as also?
No, my focus right now is to get my IFR rating. I'm using the flight school's plane right now. It's a complex aircraft, a retractable aircraft.
Yeah.
If things go well, I'll be closing on my own plane next week. So
Awesome.
I'll have my own airplane to tool around, and hopefully we'll be flying that into Subfest next September. And of course, all of you have remembered about Subfest, September, 3rd week of September. This next week, actually, I'm going to be reaching back out to the Red Clay Resort to secure the facility.
Okay, so I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The first one is that printed stuff that you did, the Nautilus placards. How fragile are those? Super
tough. You can get the thing about those. There's as many different kinds of resin as you can think of. There's stuff that as you print it is soft and rubbery, There's stuff that is, you know, super hard and brittle, and then there's stuff in the middle. So this, when it comes off the printer, it's very malleable. And then what I do is I just put it out on the bench out here, and it cures fully in the sunlight. And then it is much more rigid after that.
Okay, then the second question is, does anybody know if the all of the snorkels and periscopes and all that stuff from the skipjack, are those essentially the same thing that the LA class would use? And could I use those as a reference to do all of that stuff on the 48th LA?
Only the type 2 scope.
What about the snorkel and ECM and radar and all that stuff?
The ECM antenna itself, yeah, but not the fairing.
Okay. All right. Answers my questions. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well, I'm done. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Now's your time to shine.
Well,
Bob, I asked you a question about
sorry,
running the servo wire close together and parallel. Does that create any problems?
No, I emailed you back. Boy, I think we're having email issues. As far as I know, and I am fully prepared to stand corrected. You know, RF interference is generated by current, as far as I know. And the servos really don't draw a lot of current individually. You know, collectively they might, but individually I don't think they do. So it doesn't hurt anything to wrap the cables, you know, in a ferrite. But I have never run into an issue where RF interference was a result of servos as opposed to pumps or motors or that kind of thing. Does anybody else have
So what you're
experience?
saying
or...
what you're saying, Bob, not to interrupt that, but the servo wires themselves ganged up is no problem. But if I put them next to other wires, 12-volt wires that are running things, I might get a problem there.
I would think so. And we've got a whole plethora. That's the first time I've been able to use that in a sentence in a long time, of individuals who know a lot more about that than I do.
Parasitic EMI. Parasitic EMI. If you have all that stuff bunched together.
So Frank's question, just to reiterate it, if I'm correct, Frank, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there going to be a propensity for interference with the servo operations if you run the servo wires next to, you know, for example, the main power leads for your main drive motor?
I wouldn't. I would keep your servo wires away from the main power bus lines.
Right. Avoid parasitic electromagnetic interference is what Tim and I are saying. Meaning the servo wires in and of themselves are fine, but you don't want to run your your power supply wires, your pump wires. I mean, the batteries technically act like a big cap, but you know, in the tight confines, especially in a subdriver, whatever you got, you wouldn't want to run things that you try and separate. I found sometimes I'll get servo jitter, but if I rotate a component 90 degrees, I'll lose it. You know, it's trial and error, and in the tight confines of a watertight space, you want to keep your power away from, especially power that's not filtered or have bypass filtering caps.
Gotcha. You answered me the other day, but I didn't ask you about putting it next to other wires. You know, that was just servo to servo wire, which apparently everybody says is fine. Yeah. It's the putting it next to the other wires. Okay. Makes it easier now.
Well, that's why forced Mac to use twin pipes and there's WCC, so all of its main power goes through one umbilical cord, and all your signal stuff goes through another one. You won't get no interference.
Yeah, you're right, bullied me over that one.
Yeah. But like Bob said, ferrite rings, if you can't, just use a couple of ferrite rings.
Yep.
Hey, Bob, I got a
Right, you've had
question.
a couple of questions.
Sorry.
That's okay.
all right, go on.
It's just Matt, Nick. You can go ahead and talk over him.
No, Matt, you go first.
All right, I'm just going to quickly touch up on resin printing because I've been doing it for a year. I think I've just taken it to the next level. I'm sure some of you have seen my upholder. So I'm actually resin printing panels to do, I don't know if you can see how well you can see that, but they are all resin printed panels. And if you don't UV them, they bend really nicely. So if you don't cure them straight away, in fact, I've got a bit here. So someone was asking how strong. See, that's like a chocolate. The only way straight, it looks like a chocolate bar. So if I put some strength on it, I can break it in the correct line, so I get a nice straight edge. But I also can bend it. So you can actually, this is quite tough stuff. And also you can actually sand it really easily. Where obviously if it was FDM, you can't sand it. Well, you can, but it's quite hard work.
Yeah.
So if you are going to go down the resin printing route, right, it's the best thing I would suggest doing, especially for doing stuff like this, including, thanks to Mike, I know you're in here somewhere, the detail parts for the hatches and everything else. Now, the panels are 1 mil, but I know the hatches are 0.5 of a mil. So you can go as thin as you like.
Matthew,
and yeah.
Can you supply us with the hatches for the upholder?
No, I can't, because unfortunately, it's not unfortunately, because between three of us, we have decided that obviously we've shared these ideas between us, and it's their choice not to sell them. And I'm not going to go against their wishes on selling these parts. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, so if anybody got any questions on resin printing, I mean, I'm quite happy to jump in there. I know, Bob, you're loving it as well. I mean, for me, for making masters, I mean, this is purely an experiment on the whole for the next master I'm about to do, because originally the previous guys did it in lithoplate, and there is absolutely no way I can replicate the lithoplate detail into these molds. So my plan was test this out. This is the resin printed panels, and actually the detail's so good, it's just as good as the lithoplate. So it'll be really interesting on the next hull, on the next molds, on the detail that comes out on that.
I want to jump in there really quick and talk about that comment that you made about 3D files and selling or not selling. And Dave Merriman is going to, I can hear him mentally nodding, or he will be at any rate. Just as if it were a physical part, when a 3D artist creates a digital file, that is their work. When that file leaves their possession, it's as good as posting it on the internet for all intents and purposes, because it'll get shared and people will, give it to a buddy, and, or a piece will get printed and then it'll get copied. So all I'm saying is that as much as though it were a physical part, a digital file is just as much a copyrighted, piece of work as it would be as if it were physical. And the interesting thing is, and in my old job, I dealt with this a lot. This new generation of people who are coming out, they call the maker culture. And the whole mantra behind the maker culture is that everything is going to get shared out. And you see platforms like Thingiverse, right? Where people spend hours and hours and hours generating 3D files and they post them up for free, which is the coolest thing ever, right? But what it's done is it's created a a culture, and I'm as much guilty of it as anybody else, where if people hear the word, oh, 3D file, send a copy over to me, post that up for free. When I first started releasing those 3D files for submarines, people were offended. They were livid that I was charging for them. You should have seen they're still probably up there on YouTube for my first astute submarine.
I understand totally the proprietary nature of 3D files. Absolutely. My question was, would Matthew sell the part?
Oh yeah. So I'm not coming down on you more. Don't get me wrong. I just wanted to comment to the group as a whole about that.
No, I respect all of that.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, and as a goodwill thing to all the guys that helped me out with this, I'm not going to go down that route. But nice to ask, but no.
I get exactly the same with my my coding. I get people reaching out saying, "Oh, can I have it?" No, it's mine. I'll do the basic, but you're not having my hard work. But the mentality is now, oh, you can have it for free, put it online.
Yep.
Atlas Shrugged should be required reading.
It's like silence, because everybody's like, man, did I read that book?
Somebody has to be political.
Nick had reached out, and then we all stepped on him.
Oh, no, it's all good. I just had a really quick question regarding those air pumps for the low pressure blower pumps.
Mm-hmm.
How well are those at pumping water? Are they just as good as air? Are they slow?
Slower. They'll pump water just fine. And I think maybe Dave might have experimented more than I have, but you're talking about like these ones and the little ones too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Diaphragm pumps are equally happy pumping either medium, but the volume is going to be exponentially higher of air than water, and I would dare to guess that the current consumption would also be exponentially higher with water versus air as well.
How would doing like a side by side comparison? How well was the diaphragm pump versus like the Parasitic pump in pumping water?
Well, I mean, a Parasitic pump would have significantly higher pressure, but significantly lower volume, like significantly lower volume.
Okay.
It would take, for a ballast tank of this size, even with I've had a big Parasitic pump. I think one of the bigger ones that I managed to source, and that was for that Thunder Tiger Neptune revamp that I did. It would pump, was it 300 mils a minute? And that was a big pump. It was like this big.
Yeah, I'm getting about 100 mils in 30 seconds. But
so there you go, 200 a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm exploring different options for finer trim adjustments. But packaging is everything. Yep.
So the thing about so if you're just going to be moving trim back and forth, it's not going to be at pressure, right? You're not pressurizing one side or the other.
Well, so what I'm looking at is you really, in my opinion, you can't beat, and I'm not that I'm trying to by any means, but I'm just saying you cannot beat what Dave has come up with on his snort systems.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm looking at is I'm playing around with a hybrid where the primary diving is the main ballast tank is using that system, but it's smaller, and then using pistons at either end of the WTC or SD for taking on water, and then also shifting it back and forth for trim adjustments.
Yeah, well, I mean, so it's not really you've got a plunger style ballast tank is what you've got. It's not really a piston tank, so to speak, right?
I was playing with the pistons. The jack screw thing is great. No problem making them. But again, packaging. I like the
Yep.
floating plunger.
Yep.
Because it's smaller. Yep. And I borrowed a trick from John Dutton's work where he's using the laser to sense the position of the plunger.
Mm-hmm. So what
Instead
I
of-
would say, realistically speaking, if your pressure is equalized throughout your entire cylinder, as you move the plungers from one end, I'm going to try and fit this in the camera, to the other end, they're shifting at the same rate. So net pressure would not be increased inside your cylinder. If you're pulling them in together to dive, net pressure would be increased. And the reason I'm saying all this is that I really love gear pumps. And they move at high pressure and they move good volume, but the problem is they don't seal. So as soon as they stop pumping, you'll get a flow back of pressure.
On the trim tanks, fore and aft, put a balanced vent line between the two. In other words, when air is compressed in one, it goes to the balance tube into the other tank as it's going the other way, so that your net differential is zero. That will speed your flow rate from the pump.
Okay.
I think that the challenge, though, Dave, is what he's talking about. Is he wants to use it not only for trim, but as a secondary ballast tank for fine adjustment of buoyancy. So
too many bells and whistles there. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was I thinking?
No, I agree with that. And this submarine is a totally different animal versus what I would probably typically build.
So having said all of this, I'm assuming you're not building like an 8-foot long boat, right? This is probably like a 4-footer or something, a 5-footer.
This one's the ARC model one I've been kind of playing around with for the last year.
Your trim tanks only need to be like like a 50 mil syringe. All you're doing is going from slightly positive buoyancy to slightly negative buoyancy. You don't need to move a gallon of water. It's literally ounces. So a peristaltic pump, in my mind, would be ideal. You would be able to move, your 100 mils would be huge on each side. That's 200 mils of overall volume. So I think you're going down the right path. If you found a peristaltic pump that'll fit and it's pumping that kind of volume, I think you got the right one.
Yeah, nothing's written in stone yet. This is literally just playing around with what's possible. The reason I use the 100 mil as an example is I'm trying to make the center ballast tank small, because that model doesn't have very much room like a 7-foot or 8-foot boat would. So getting that central ballast tank shorter, and then using the external tanks to make up for that.
I think you got the right mindset, and I think a peristaltic pump would be perfect for your needs.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
You bet.
I've got a bit of exciting news to bring to the group. I don't know if any of you lot have seen on YouTube, there's a 12-foot Gato in the UK, which was built in the 90s. It's a work of art electronically. I've been trying to get this guy to actually build stuff for the last 5 years to help the hobby, and he's partnering up with me. So we are going to be producing quite a lot of new products for the market. So, but if you ever get a chance, if you type on YouTube, type in 12-foot Gato submarine, what this guy has done is it'll blow you away. If that makes sense.
It sounds awesome. I'll have to look that up for sure.
Yeah, if you have any ideas or things that you thought, give us a heads up. We might be able to do something.
That is exciting news. That's awesome to hear.
Question
Steve.
on the running lights, surface running lights on, say, an Ohio class boat. They typically have a light on the fin, the vertical fin on the back, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's usually ones on either side of the sail, I believe, as well.
I'll take
Yeah.
that.
Go ahead.
All right. What are you looking for? Arc of visibility, colors? The
Color.
stern light is on the rudder.
Pardon?
The stern light, what's called
Yeah.
a stern, STERN light, is on the rudder. It's
Yeah.
135-degree white light.
So it's white. Okay.
Yes. The port running light is on the port side. It's red. It's 110-degree arc of visibility from the bow to just abaft the beam. Okay.
Okay.
On the starboard side, the starboard running light is 110 degrees as well from the bow to just abaft the beam. Okay. If you add those together, they make 360 degrees. So somebody at night can actually tell the direction of the vessel underway.
So
The
is the
Mast
starboard a
Headlight-
green?
Yeah, starboard is green. There are
Okay.
2 other lights you need to know. Actually, 3. The third light is called the Mast Headlight or steaming light. That is for a vessel underway making way on power. That's a 220-degree light that is above that. We usually would rig it up with a mast. I think modern boats are built into one of the masts, but I would go up to the bridge and rig that thing. It's a 220 degrees. It's the same arc of visibility as both the side lights combined, from just abaft the port beam all the way around to the starboard side. Okay, that's called your steaming light. The last light of interest is the submarine identification beacon on a U.S. sub. That is Morse S. Okay, it is 3 seconds off, then blinks 1 second with an off period for 1 second 3 times. So it's dot, 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 off, dot. That was enacted by Congress in the 70s. Okay, that's a sub ID beacon.
What
And
color is it?
I think your friend Kevin makes them as well. I mean, you could program one in Arduino, but I think Kevin sells them, Bob.
If he does, I haven't seen or heard of him.
Yeah, well, I was told he does. I don't know. Last light is the emergency stern light. Now, obviously, a submarine underway, you can't have a guy go climb on the rudder to replace a bulb. So the aft end of a sail is usually the emergency stern light, which is the same arc of visibility. But that's kind of the fourth, and you don't really need that unless you want to play real world that your light went out on the stern.
So what color is the steaming light?
White,
And what color is the Morse light?
amber, or yellow.
Right, Ed, just a quick one. For a minute, obviously, I was listening to what you're saying.
What?
We call that amber light in the UK the truculent light. And it's purely because of, I think it was in the 1970s, we had a submarine called HMS Truculent that got struck down by a US,
okay.
And we also, it means that the vessel is
In its
restricted
ability
in its
to maneuver.
ability to maneuver.
Yes.
That's it's an amber all-round flashing light.
Yes.
Obviously, you know the system, so I don't. But we call it in the UK the truculent light.
The truculent light. It's identified, you're exactly right, that a submarine is a deep drafted, restricted in ability to maneuver vessel. Now, it's interesting. I've been watching some of those Russian submarine propaganda videos on YouTube, and theirs appears to be a quick flashing yellow light near the stern. Though I can't deny that.
I mean, ours is just a flashing orange light. I don't think there's any sequence to
maybe it's a whole European thing. I know the Morse S was enacted by Congress back in the 70s.
So it might have been straight after the truculent accident, hence why ours was in the 70s as well.
Now the neat thing, Steve, if you get the arc of visibility right, you can tell the direction of a vessel or its angle on the bow at night. I mean, this guys, what I just told you could learn in any boating safety course anyway. The only different thing is the flashing amber light.
Where is the flashing amber located?
That's above the masthead.
Okay.
So if you can rig it, I'm not sure. What are you putting it on? The Ohio?
I'm actually curious about, and I mean, this is for the Columbia class actually, but which is kind of in a way a concept boat because it's not
right.
It's just been started, but I figured it was kind of a standard thing. So
got it. Hey, Matthew, you disappeared. Where is it on the Key West?
Key West pass. You on about Vanguard?
Mast, or did you guys have to rig them?
No, they're up on the top mast. I have no idea because obviously I'm surface fleet, not bubblehead.
Right. No, I was talking to the other Matthew, the guy who served.
Roger, I'll shut up then.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So like I got the nav ID mast here. The mast headlight would be on the top, and then the amber light would be in the middle here.
Really?
Yeah. And it would sit like this, just like that, up in the sail, and it rose. It was a part of the mast. It would raise up, it raise down. You try to watch out, not get hit by it. The amber light's pretty powerful. It lights up the bridge at night. It's really nice.
Yeah.
For looking at stuff if you need to look. But also annoying if you don't want to, if you want a nice quiet night.
On my old boat, it was a 2-piece rig. We drag it up from control, rig the sub ID on top, and then hoist it up.
Yeah, so we incorporated it into a nav ID mast. What we did have to rig was the commercial radar. There's the military radar, and then there's like a little commercial radar, and that thing goes on top of the mast. And we've lost it once or twice. You know, the Simrad becomes the underwater Simrad, so it's better than sonar. But I wouldn't worry about the stern light, Steve, because like our stern light on the rudder didn't work the entire 3 years I was there. We tried many times.
I was just bringing that up for the sticklers in scale.
Yeah,
and I'm not too terribly concerned about just how accurate this is. I mean, I just something to be able to distinguish left from right and the front from the back. You know, if we have our night runs at the Subfest, and maybe this time they'd turn that far light out completely, but I don't know.
Yeah, hey, Bob, Mr. Martin. Yeah. That would make a good little sub chapter in your book, sub identification or running lights of the different nations. See if we can.
Oh my Lord. I'm trying to finish this book, and every time I think I'm done, everybody's like, "Oh, you need to include this chapter." This is a book for beginners, but you know, I do kind of like that idea. The general idea of port and starboard navigation lights, a stern light and that kind of thing. I think that would be valuable and viable for people to know where to put their lights, and that could just be a little 1-paragraph deal in my LED light chapter.
I'm waiting for Dave to throw a book here at the Navigesser. He didn't comment yet. Love you, Dave, wherever you're hiding.
Stay tuned.
Charging up the venom.
So, Mr. Merriman, what are we looking at in your picture?
None of your damn business.
Inquiring minds have to know.
There he is.
Mr. Congeniality.
Can I speak now? Huh? Is it okay now?
Yeah.
Is this thing on? Okay. I'm doing work fine tuning a kit that Bob is going to put in production. It's a 196 sturgeon class. And we started with Matt Thor's excellent masters of the hull and appendages. I've had to do some fine tuning, but other than that, that was good work. And what I'm doing, I'm showing off here. Hopefully we're going to make this kit kind of idiot proof, nothing personal, you people, but you'll be getting a complete tail cone assembly, which if Bob elects to do it this way, it'll come to you with the control surfaces installed, as well as the linkages, the yokes, propeller shaft, propeller, everything in the raw. So there'll be no excuses for you to come back at Bob and say, how do you do this? Because you're going to get it already done. So that's what we did with, he's already released a kilo and a blueback.
Blueback.
Yeah, that's right. And I've configured those kits that way, and I think it's been a big asset. So what you're looking at are some of the raw castings, and in this case, a master for that kit. So that's my show and tell for the day.
And just to follow up with that, there was a comment previously in a DiveTribe, and I think Dave had followed up before. He seems to feel that the sturgeon is one of, if not the best performing RC boat that you can run. Did you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, back in the day when Matt Thor was producing these kits, and to give the guy his due, he did beautiful glass work, and the kits were all very well detailed and accurate to prototype. To get back to Bob's point, I drove all of the models at one point or another because I was doing a lot of the master work at the time. So my own personal rides, the best driving one of the bunch, and that's true in 196 or 172nd scale, is the sturgeon class boat. It turned tight. It was hands off at periscope depth once you dialed it in. And it was just a joy to ride. To give you an example, the difference of type of boats, skipjack is fast and highly maneuverable and a complete pain in the ass. The sturgeon, this is your mama's ride. This is the automatic transmission, power steering boat, and it's perfect ride. It's just no sweat.
I'm excited. It's and over and above everything else, it's a cool looking boat too. And to expound upon Dave's comment there, you know, that idea, what he's holding, that assembly is the same idea as the 96 kilo in blueback. And the reason it was done that way was not necessarily for, you know, some of you people who may have been building boats for the last decade, but for the people who are just getting into this hobby for the first time. Because the hardest part of the boat is what Dave's holding there right now. You know, the installation of the control surfaces, the installation of the control yokes, the installation of the drive shaft, all of that comes done. You literally bolt it on the back of the boat, paint it, and you're done. So there's if you can't build a boat with this kit and the kilo kit and the blueback kit, you got no business in the RC submarine world.
What boat is that you're showing, Steve?
Oh, that's the Columbia that I'm playing with. I designed the files for it, and then I've 3D printed it in ASA filament, and the hull is nearly done. So I've got the appendages on the back already and the propulsor unit all tied up, and so it's getting really close.
So what are you doing for a propulsor? Are you doing like an actual propulsor, or is this going to be a shrouded prop, or what do you got going on back there?
Whoops.
Oh man, that is a very steep angle you've got on those rotors.
Oh yeah.
No stators?
It's a
It'll work.
power.
So
We're gonna-
I am no expert whatsoever, but I know with my experimentation with Astute that the part of the problem that we ran into is that the full-sized boat does not scale to small-sized boats and then actually like work. My gut says, and not to take anything away from what you've done there, that I think the angle that you have on those rotors is a little bit too steep. I think you're going to want to shallow the pitch out. You know, it's just like control surfaces for dive planes and rudders. You know, you can say, oh, you know, I got a 90% throw on my rudder, but obviously at 90 degrees, it's a brake, not a control surface.
Okay,
And I
you're being diplomatic. I'll use the sharp knife. That ain't going to work. It belongs in a blender.
I think you're going to want to soften up the pitch on the rotor, or better yet, don't bother reinventing the wheel. Just grab a professionally engineered, either 3 or 5 bladed, or better if you want to go aesthetics, you know, a 7-bladed scimitar prop, and stick it in there. Nobody's going to see it inside that shroud anyway. I would say that would probably be, from a performance perspective only, your best bet.
It's always subject to be changed. So
Try it. It's all trial. I would love to be proven wrong. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be proven wrong. So I'm super excited to see what your live action experimentation ends up resulting, and I really hope you share that with the group once you get to that point.
yeah, I'm learning as I go. So, you know, if it needs to change, it needs to change. It's not a problem. Easy enough to do.
Can we see that again, please? Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, in my sea view, I put props in a tube and the water was coming out, you know, turning. So I put stators in, and what a difference that made in thrust and everything.
I've got
So
some in the back of the shroud, but
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of
So
straightens out.
typically the stators would actually be installed at like an opposite angle
Yeah, mine
to counteract.
Yeah, that's what mine do.
Yeah. And again, Steve, don't get us wrong. We are not nitpicking. We're just saying that,
I
that
know.
typically the purpose of the stator would be to redirect the flow in such a manner that it becomes linear to the longitudinal axis of the boat, as opposed to a spiraling jet stream out the back. What I'm really excited about is that X-tail rudder for a boat that big. When I was doing my research, and this will obviously be in my books for those of you who actually end up carrying, when they did research on the advantage of X-tail rudders versus cruciform rudders, the performance advantage of X-tail over cruciform was 1.4 times, so 140% more effective at initiating or controlling the attitude of the boat. And obviously that makes sense. Instead of using 2 control surfaces to control yaw, for example, you're utilizing 4 control surfaces. So I think it's going to be super cool to see a boat that big. I'd be willing to bet it's going to turn and dive really nicely.
They had to wait for Rickover to die before they would embrace the X-tail.
One of the things,
He was
one of the things
engineer
that I saw in some of the artists' conceptions was an additional small rudder vertically underneath.
Wow.
I don't know if they think that's necessary or if, you know,
You might have been looking at a fair lead for either an evasion device dispenser or a towed cable. They also serve as an anti-healing device to counter snap roll.
Ah,
it specifically said rudder.
Stabilizer, did it move?
I have no idea.
I suspect it's a stabilizer.
Yeah, I don't
so
know.
so it'd be stationary. You wouldn't have to actuate it.
Possibly, yeah, because I just don't know anything about it. So, you know,
yeah,
I know very little about this boat other than what drawings I've seen of it, which are not even that many. So
What'll be actually really cool, what you could do if you really want to get fancy, is you connect the servo that would actuate that, because you have it actuated right now, right? It actually swivels.
I don't have anything connected. I have it set to where it could, but I haven't committed to doing one way or the other.
But what you could do, which would be super cool to me anyway, connect that servo to a pitch controller that is mounted transversely in the hull to detect roll in the boat. And so what would happen if that boat ended up heeling over due to torque induced roll, that little rudder on the bottom would actually, you know, move to help counteract it.
It would be a trim tab.
Basically, yeah, it would work as a trim tab. Now it's pretty close to the center line of the boat, so I don't know how effective it would be, but it would still be cool to see it moving as you tilted the boat back and forth.
If it was closely coupled to the center of gravity, yes, but it's so well removed, it's got a big moment arm. That's going to be a yawing force, not a rolling force.
No, that could be, well, that's true too, yeah.
It is. Do not dive me.
Yeah, I figured I'd just fix it rather than fool with it.
I think you got the right plan. I would just glue it in place and call it done.
Yeah, trying to keep this thing as simple as possible. So anyway, plus because it's not much known about it, I have a lot of liberty here.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, we got a question for you. Just curious. I see you're bringing out the Nautilus in a new way and with the interior and all that cool stuff. And I was just curious, how do you get away with copyright and trademarks from Disney? Do you have the rights to do all that stuff?
Next question.
Oh, all right, never mind.
No, you're fine. Honestly, so the masters for this particular boat were created by a gentleman by the name of Scott Brodeen. He did work specifically for Disney and for EFX, which is a licensed entity of this. So there's a couple of things going on. Number one, he's got an established relationship with both Disney and EFX as licensed distributor of Disney products. And furthermore, in researching this, there's something, now what's the term that they call it? Inferred permission. Because this boat, or these boats, have been offered for sale now since the 1980s, I think, really without Disney taking any punitive action against anybody. There's something called inferred permission. So to back up, I do not have a license with Disney. Disney does not give out licenses, period, unless you're a company like EFX. This is such low production. I mean, we're going to be talking dozens of kits, not hundreds of kits. I'm not going to, trust me, I'm not going to be retiring off of this product line.
Well,
or anything.
Anymore, it's considered common usage, Bob.
It could be, but at any rate, I hope that kind of, it's like all of these other things too, the, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen Nautilus, the Sea View, all of these garage kit manufacturers that are out there. Realistically speaking, particularly because Disney has been talking for the longest time about bringing out a prequel to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. whom they had queued Will Smith up to play Captain Nemo, by the way. That hurts my heart. But I think any like additional advertising, marketing to keep 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea relevant to the market is a good thing. So I think they're more than happy to let small players, continue their small time deal and keep that name out. Now, if and when the new movie comes out, that could be an entirely different scenario, and they may crack down or whatever. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Bob, to jump in, my daughter does a lot of artwork, and she would sell products and stuff on Etsy. She has gotten letters from Disney and a few others that stop, cease, desist. These are copyrighted characters that you are drawing. Etsy probably gets more viewing than Drydocks.
Well, yeah, stuff like the mouse and stuff that is current.
Well, anyway, it's
you do a T-shirt, they get you.
Dave. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that if it were on their radar, they would very likely bring it up. And so keeping it as you have is an ideal thing. The other thing too is that there's no clear, bright line, but it's amazing how small the changes need to be before it's no longer the original creation. So how much you would change your design, which you've gone to great lengths to make sure it's exactly like the 20,000 Leagues original was, but it may be not much that you have to change, but don't flaunt it. You're right in that it would bring more attention to their movie, and that don't confuse me with facts. I knows what I knows. It's our design. We want money for it. You need our permission, and yeah, just keep it under the radar.
Yeah. I completely understand, and thanks for that input. I do know, that Disney jealously guards, their copyrighted characters. All of those animated characters, to the point where, like, I think a daycare had put, like Mickey Mouse, they painted it on like a window, and they got a cease and desist or something like that. So yeah, I completely agree and understand what you're saying.
And while I got your attention, I sent a little chat out, but I'm excited to get my ARC model Type 7 here one of these days when it comes in. I've had an interesting couple months. That Christmas Day, I got COVID. I will tell you, it is worth the effort to avoid getting that thing. I was absolutely miserable for 2 weeks. I couldn't even sit up and watch TV. I was so weak. And now, since I've had cancer surgery on an ear, getting skin cancer removed, so it's been an interesting ride. But I'm hoping to have time that maybe late February, first part of March, or the model will arrive, that I can start working on it. I'll be caught up with work. But the new drive module that I saw in one of your videos of a week or so ago, very impressive. I'm really excited with the new designs, and I got to tell you, that torpedo system that you have is really, really neat. I don't know if you're to a point where you can start marketing it, but love to see if that's something that I might be able to add to the model that's yet to come.
So yeah, that was the overarching idea, and it's the reason that it took a little bit longer. Is I didn't want to just put something together and just have it live in this boat. If I'm going to take all the time to design and implement this, I wanted to do it in such a manner that I could replicate it. So that's the idea.
Yeah, the ball bearing system to release the friction, because I know, like on crossbows, that's the hard thing. How do you release the string? It's the simplest thing, but it's also the hardest part of it.
Yep. And again, giving credit where credit is due. This is all, a revamp or revision of David Merriman's little 72nd scale launching system, and he did use those ball bearings as a launch mechanism. So this is just the big brother, to that version, and this is set up specifically for the ARC model version. And the other potential product will just simply be standalone tubes. and they would be, you know, one tube, one launcher, one arm, and you just mount it, you know, 1 or 2 or 6 or however many tubes you want in your boat, whatever the boat may be. But this one is specifically designed to mount to that internal bulkhead on the inside of the ARC model kit. And because the ARC model kit has done such a great job of bringing more people into the hobby, I really want to help support that. And you know, the cylinder will be set up and stipulated for it, and this launcher will be specifically designed for it as well. So yes, very possible.
Okay, wonderful.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay, quick question. Did you moving forward with the metallization or the metal printing on the Nautilus prop? Remember we discussed?
Yes. Yep. So the features or options for that kit as it stands right now, stainless steel scale prop in a bronze finish. It's going to be, actually, I just got notification it got shipped, so it should be like within a week. I should have my first batch of 10 props, and then a full photo etch deck and wheelhouse floors. Obviously motorized prop for anybody that wants to do a static display. I've got a custom LED lighting kit with, rather than the 3mm LEDs for the 77 scale, they're 5mm LEDs, so they'll be larger bulbs. You know, they won't be just little pinpricks behind the floodlights. Yeah, I think that's it for right now. And then obviously, once I get my feet underneath me, I've got 90% of the 3D files for a salon kit as well. And I know you're doing, you know, an RC version, but I've done it in the past where there's a couple of different ways. You can actually have a drop-in salon. So when you have it on display, you can have a, you know, a full salon interior, or you can do a partial salon interior that with the settee pit right behind the viewport. So you've got that curved couch, and that fits in that bubble. So you still have room for the cylinder on the inside, so you can see the couch and the curtains and the ballast tubes and all of that fun stuff.
I actually given that some thought, and you know, you all know why I march to the beat of a different drum. When I approach interiors for models like the Proteus I'm working on, I like to do that separate. Display it on a shelf so you can see it all the way around, as opposed to having it inside the model. You can light it and backlight it and have it actually on display, you know, nice on the shelf in your hobby room or whatever. That's my.
So this should be right down that alley. It'll be a self, you know, just like the 31-inch kit. It'll be a sort of a self-contained module that you can just drop in.
There you go. Thank you.
You bet.
I've got a quick one, just really quickly. I'm working on something a bit hush-hush at the moment, and I need to know what voltages people work at, because 6-volt batteries can be a bit of a problem with electronics. How many people do you reckon still use 6-volt in their system?
So typically the products that I offer and support, the small cylinders are going to be 7.4 volt lithium polymer batteries. The large cylinders are 11.1 volt, and the really big boats will be the full 12 volt nickel metal hydride or sealed lead acid.
Cool. There you go.
All right, I am at the point where I've got to go. I have to go pick up a prescription from the pharmacy, but as usual, I can keep this rolling for everybody. It's been awesome. Good seeing you guys again. And I am going to depart, head back to the house, pick up the wife, go on a date to the pharmacy. Super exciting.
Enjoy.
All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
See you, Bob.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah, Bob. I have a question for you, Tim.
That's awful. Yes,
Tim, are you still?
It's crazy.
Tim?
What are we listening to? The news?
Yeah.
This is Ernie. I have a question for Tim.
Oh, good.
Could you, maybe not this time or maybe next time, talk about your Arduino system, your delivery system from your radio to Arduino? I'm not real keen on going to 2.4 gigahertz on a submarine. If it doesn't go underwater, it's not a submarine, I don't think. But
Here.
What? Because I said I know Nick was.
Get a life.
No, Ed, you get a life.
What I'll do is I'll get the basic code you need to read a receiver properly, and I'll put it in the forum so everyone can have a play.
okay, yeah, I mean, I'm up to doing. I've got some radios on 75. I don't, like I said, I just soon I've read about Arduino. I think it's the way to go, and I don't know what delivery system you use though, like 900 megahertz or something like that. I don't know what you use to deliver it from the radio to the Arduino though.
Oh, I still use 40 meg.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is your 75 meg.
Yeah, 75. Okay, well, yeah, but it'd still be interesting to use. I just think it's a whole lot more better, powerful than what we can use now.
And in July, fingers crossed, we'll have the new 75 megs.
What?
In July, fingers crossed, we'll have the first batch of the new 75 megs.